Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Friday evening. It is also 9 o'clock. Time to have a movie review. But first, as always, a little music. Enjoy.
We are all the heirs to Scotland, as a nation proudly stand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let a flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. To the world we bid a welcome in 1,000 different ways. We will toast to long lost friendships as we build our better days. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. We are all the heroes of Scotland. We're a nation hand in hand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum.
Cut myself shaving. So, I hope you're all doing well this evening. Not much of a day weather-wise. We've already got my good friend Sensum here. I'll bring on in a moment. I just want to mention a couple of things here, party things. Not everyone has paid a subscription so far. And I'd like you to do that when it's convenient for you. And just let me see. Got someone here I need to speak to directly. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? hell is he? I'll bring you on, guys. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten about you. I just wanted to get this out of the way. It's a new member who has sent his subscription money. But what he hasn't done, he hasn't sent his proper name and address. What the heck is it he calls himself? Great, you can't find something when you're looking for it. Okay. Eki, on you come. How are you, sir? Oh, no, that's not Eki, that's Sensor. That's Eki. How you doing?
How's it going? I'm okay.
You okay?
Yeah. Overall, I don't know if Sensum is listening and present, but there was a stream near a month ago that he did about the whole demon thing, and gosh, I missed it. This whole last month has been extremely busy for me, and I missed it. And I feel bad for it. But
Well, that was a stream I was trying to get organised, and I was doing it through William, and William took it up for me. And what I'm hoping for, Eki, is that when I'm feeling a good bit better, we can have another go at that stream, because William's got the contact with this Jerry, who is a bit of an expert in this field.
Really?
Yeah. And that's who it was on. He was meant to come on my channel, you see, and I was going to invite particular people who are interested in the subject on the stream. But then I took ill, and that was the end of that. But the idea is I'm going to get back to it and do a second version, if you like, with, again, particular people who are particularly interested in the subject, because I know not everyone is interested in the subject.
Well, it's pretty obscure.
Yeah, well, I think they should be interested in the subject, but they're not. Anyway, I thought it was worthwhile getting this chap on, getting some real good information that can then sit on the channel here for people to reference it if and when they need it.
And if you don't mind my asking, was he on the stream that happened like 3 weeks ago?
Now, I don't know about that, but he was on with William.
Yeah.
On William to make up for the stream that he was supposed to have with me, you see.
Yeah, I can drop the link in the chat, Eki, if you wanted to look at it at some point.
That would be cool.
Good evening, Sensor.
Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing okay. Yeah. William got in touch with me literally about 9:15, and he says, "Have you got the link?" And I goes, "Not yet, but it'll probably be coming." So I don't know. I did send it to him on Telegram, so hopefully he'll either get it through email or that link that I've just dropped there now. So, because I literally didn't get mine until a minute before you went live. So yeah, maybe there's a bit of lag going on.
Well, that was, I'm just explaining to Eki what my intention was to get particular individuals such as yourself, Sensor, on this live stream about demon and demonology. And and create something hopefully a little bit special and a bit specialized for people and future reference should they want it or need it. And that was the idea of it all. Although I've got some limited experience of these things, I wanted to speak to someone who, the way William was speaking, seemed to know an awful lot more about it than I did. And that was important, I thought. So that's the whole idea. At the moment, I'm still looking for this fella who joined the party but never sent me his details. And it's like everything else, isn't it? When you're looking for something, you can't find the damn thing. I don't know where he is. I'll likely come across it. And we're waiting on William, aren't we? Why is William not here? Thanks very much for sending your subscription, Sensum. Appreciate the donation.
Yeah, I did. Well, like I say, unfortunately, I'm only online when I'm on my computer. So when I'm out, I've got no access.
That's
So
okay.
I only check things on a night. But I did it straight away as soon as I saw the email.
Sure.
So it's a bit like William's a bugger for doing this. If we're on Telegram, for instance, once again, I don't have all of these apps and rubbish like that on my phone. My phone literally does phone calls and texts. That's it. It doesn't do any of the. Oh no, sorry. It's got what else? It's got some. It's got a radio. Yeah, a radio. But you have to plug headphones in for the radio to work.
There's William. Good evening, William. You're here with us.
There we go. Yep, I'm all good.
Yeah.
I'm here. I made it at least, and it's good to see you, John.
Thank you. I was just explaining to Eki that when I feel a bit better, I'm, a bit stronger and up to it, we'll try and get that live stream with Jerry organised once more and have particular invited guests on that live stream, because I think, for me and my view of things, I think it's important that our audience can have access to this kind of information, even if they don't feel as though they need it at the moment. They may in future want it or need it, and I'd like it to be lying there on the channel, even if I've long disappeared from this world. But that's another matter. I just think it's important. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally get it. When we done this stream, it was quite mind-blowing, to be honest. It kind of blew me away.
Yeah.
I'm still sort of absorbing it, to be honest. There was a lot to take in. And I did say to Jerry on the stream, I mentioned about yourself and the possibility of doing another stream after it, and he was okay with that. So
that's good.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be all good.
So you explained to him that I was unwell, I hope. That's why you were taking up the mantle for me. God, where is that man? Where is he? That's ridiculous. I can't find that guy. Anyway.
Is his online name Lord Lucan?
No. I think we're still looking for him as well.
Last time he was riding Shergar.
Yeah. Or what was the other one? What was the other horse? Remember the horse that was disappeared?
Red Rum.
Red Rum, that's the one.
Red Rum died, though, didn't he?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Didn't think, but it won 3 nationals. I don't think that record's ever been broken, has it?
No, I don't think so. But it was stolen.
Oh, but it got it back though, didn't they?
Yeah, eventually.
After it had sorted out a few fillies, no doubt, first.
Oh, no doubt. No sense of no doubt. And a few pounds here and there quietly paid out, I should think.
Yeah.
Well, folks, it's nice to see you all here. As always, it's great to have you as part of the audience. And we're going to be talking about a film that was chosen by possibly, not sure, but possibly an ex-Soviet Union collaborator. Sensum, I think, picked this. Anyway, I'm only joking. Sensum, on a serious note, why did you choose this film without getting into too much detail? Why this particular film?
Well, for me, it was a memorable thriller, and it was also set. When I first saw it, I obviously didn't see it at the pictures because I wasn't old enough, but it came out on one of the terrestrial channels, one of the 4 terrestrial channels we had at the time, probably ITV, after the news at 10 or BBC. And it was completely different because all of the sort of Russian films that were made, I don't exactly know where it was made. It was clearly not made in the West. It was probably made in a sort of like Czechoslovakia or somewhere of that nature. Which was, even though it was still technically under the Iron Curtain, they'd essentially sort of gone their own way and just ignored everything that the regime was doing. So, but it was pre Solidarity, so Lech Wałęsa, I think, was just becoming to prominence and everything. But every film that you saw from the West at that time was all about the global struggle, or the Cold War between the United States and the USSR, and it was quite refreshing to see a fairly normal, other than setting, a sort of a thriller, like not related to the. I mean, there were Cold War connotations in there, but it was a pretty solid thriller. And irrespective of the locale, it stood up on its own merit. And I've seen it a few times, and each time I enjoy watching it. It's just one of those films where you can still enjoy watching it. And I think when I saw it, which would be when I'd be like a mid-teenager, I think I had a little thing for Joanna Pakula. I thought she was a very lovely lady. I saw her in a few things of note, but it was the next film, believe it or not, which would be one of Ecky's favourites, that I saw her in, because it said introducing Joanna Pakula. I think she'd had a couple of, because she's Polish by birth, and I thought she'd had a couple of sort of minor roles, possibly in Poland or in other countries, like TV roles. But the film that I remember after that one was a sort of a light comedy drama called Not Quite Jerusalem, but set in the land of Canaan, shall we say, Ecky. But it was more about the kibbutzism thing, and it was. I found it very funny. But this film, Gorky Park, I think first of all, the cast stands out on its own. If you look at all the people who are involved, directors, etc., I think Dennis Potter wrote the screenplay. You got the 3 main American actors, and then Joanna Pakula, who's Polish, but I think she might have been living in the States by then. But the remainder of the actors seem to be predominantly English, or British, I should say. I mean, even old Ricky Fulton was in there, wasn't he?
So, yeah, that's right. He is indeed.
So It's not all bad, but like I
But he
say,
wasn't bad. He wasn't bad.
James Horner did the music, so what's not to like? Great film, I thought.
Yeah. I found the person. It's someone who calls himself Stick in the Mud. He has sent his subscription fee, but what he hasn't sent me is his real name and postal address so that I can send him his party welcome pack. So if you're listening, Stick in the Mud, or will be listening, please send that information to me. I appreciate the fact that you have joined the party, I really do. But you need to get this pack sent out to you. And the only way I can do it is to have your full name and postal address, which I required anyway for the national membership register. I need that. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, Stick in the Mud. He has been on here a few times in the past. So he may be here lurking, who knows? And somebody may know him. So if you do know him, give him a wee elbow and get him to send me his information, please. Okie doke. Right, back to the movie. Let me see. William, what was your opinion on this film? Briefly, let's not go into too much detail at the moment.
I didn't. It was all right, but I didn't think it was that great. To be honest, it took me a while to get into it. So I don't know. But I was just thinking there. I'm sure I seen a Stick in the Mud the other day. So I'm not sure if maybe that was him.
Well, it could be. I mean, I'm sure he's about somewhere.
But yeah, I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was that great, but
you weren't carried away.
yeah.
Okay. What did you think of the cast? Did you think the cast was up to the job?
To be honest, yeah, I thought they done quite well, to be fair. I was quite surprised at some of the different actors that were in it. I think it got set in Finland and other places like that is where they done the recording because they couldn't get into. They were not allowed into Russia, seemingly, by the trivia that I seen. So,
well, certainly not at that time. They wouldn't get in now.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought they done all right.
Okay. It was a middle of the road film for you then. It's all right. Eki, what was your opinion on this film?
It's funny we have a little role reversal. I thought it was great, and William is like, "Meh, I don't care. That's funny." I liked it. I always have my own criticisms and whatever, but yeah, I do have like one or two minor criticisms about it, which they're always very specific to me, so whatever. But no, it was really, for me, it was entertaining partly because some of the themes of the latent oppression of Soviet Russia being very prominent, rather the desire to escape the general oppression. I mean, the paranoia, the background paranoia of everyone, always concerned about being bugged or being watched or whatever, being spied upon or being ratted out for one reason or another. I found myself in a really sympathetic mindset. I was like, the entire time I was watching the movie, in the back of my head, I really was thinking, dude, I get it. I freaking get it. When I was a little kid, I never understood all of these paranoia references. I just did not understand. And now here we are in 2023, and I'm like, yep, One struggle, buddy. One struggle. I get it.
Mm,
I understand. Solidarity. Anyway,
sure. The
I liked it.
thing, I'm probably the only one here that when I first saw this film, I saw it in the cinema, and to be honest, the thing that I couldn't understand at the time, although remember I was a teenager, I didn't understand what the big deal was about these animals that they were catching, these fur animals. I didn't get that at all. It didn't seem uh, like a legitimate criminal activity to me at the time. That they would go to all that bother and risk what they were risking to get into the Soviet Union to get these animals so they could sell them for fur coats and whatnot. That just didn't make sense to me at the time. And to be honest, it still doesn't quite make sense either. I don't know if anyone else feels that about. I think to me that was a weakness in the plot.
Okay, hot take.
Well, sorry, mate. Go on. Sorry.
I'll be fast, I promise. My actual opinion is that those are sub-ins. That's a euphemism. They're not talking about sables. They're talking about sex trafficking, and they're talking about sex trafficking of people who may or may not be older than the age of 18. That's my actual opinion.
Have you got any base on that one? Is there anything in the script or on the screen that you can point to?
Gut
It's
feeling.
not that it's not that I disbelieve you, sense. Okay. Sorry, my mind, as you can understand, is a little bit confused with
No, it's okay.
this treatment I'm going through. Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and cards on table. I'm going off of gut feeling alone, and that's it. I did not. I'm sorry to say, I did not look into the production teams. I did not look into the background of who wrote and directed and whatnot, because invariably you're going to encounter descriptions of stories that they had been exposed to and that they are referencing, or news events that they found interesting at the time. And I did not do a deep dive on any of that. So the thing is, the I agree with you. I completely concur. The idea of an entire ring of people willing to kill each other over fur hats is idiotic, genuinely idiotic. So take a step back from that, and you will, whenever there are extremely difficult topics, touchy topics to discuss, invariably euphemisms are used.
Sure.
So I believe, personal opinion, I believe that yes, it was an idiotic focus for international espionage, killing each other, so on and so forth. Like, no one cares. A fur hat? Are you joking? Come on. On the other hand, what were the things that were being mentioned? Numbers of sables that they had. And at the end of the movie, the woman said, I can't remember her name. Joanna Pakula's character, whose name was Irina. Irina, at the very end of the movie, said something about how there were 6 more of these sables, and suddenly they're willing to lay their lives down for 6. I mean, I don't want to say it in the negative sense, but they're basically weasels. Okay? No one's going to lay down their life for 6 weasels. On the other hand, if you use it, if you take the assumption of it's euphemistic, then suddenly a lot of things make sense.
Right. Then you're making sense to me now. That all makes the film a lot more sensible than I definitely understood at the time when I saw it. I just didn't come away with that. But at that point in my life, I didn't have the kind of education to be able to see that anyway at that point. But I still hadn't when I watched it there, for the review. However, what I would like to say is, regardless of where the film was shot, I thought the atmosphere of the Soviet Union was incredibly effective. Now, obviously, I've never been there, so I don't know what it was actually like, but it was very, very believable, the atmosphere that was in that film. And thanks for that, Eki. I'll bear that in mind. I think you're probably right that it's a euphemism for something else. Anybody else like to say anything about the atmosphere?
Well, it's what you perceived it to be like. I would imagine it was probably a hell of a lot worse. But to do with to talk about the sables thing, Eki might be right. Maybe it was a euphemism. However, even at that time, the trade in sable pelts was a closed shop in Russia. They weren't allowed to sell live sables, and it's harkening back to the silk trade. So in China, it had a monopoly over silk because they wouldn't divulge the secret of how silk was made, nor what the source of the silk was, until one day a lady had her hair done up, and inside her hair she had a few of these silkworms. And when she left where she was to go and marry her husband, she took the secret of silk with her, and that essentially broke the monopoly over silk in China, essentially, because anywhere could then start growing silk. With the sables, what you have to understand is this: the sable pelts, just like chinchilla and all of the other sort of small animals that had wonderfully, because the sable fur itself is one of the furs that will retain the most heat, and it also, in the days before, the anti-vivisection league and all them lot went after the use of actual real skins. You look at even in those days, a true sable fur, because they could only buy you could only export the pelts. You couldn't deal in the animals. So if in those terms, even in the early 80s, and they weren't just for hats, they made fur coats from them, and all other kind of things. So if you had a full-length fur coat, even in the 80s, you were looking at the neck end of $20,000 for one garment of clothing. So it wasn't like a garage production. This was very, very, So if you had access to the actual livestock, then you could effectively grow your own market, and that's what this John Osborne or Jack Osborne was trying to do. And the reason why he was able to walk out with the 6 dead sable and say, "There you go, that's yours," because he knew he had another live 6 ones there. The reason why 6 is important is because if you have 6 caught sables from different areas, 3 males and 3 females, you basically pair 1 male and 1 female. And as soon as the female gives birth to younguns, you separate that male from that female, and the same with the other 2. And then what you do is you then put that male with one of the other females and let them mate. And then you do the same with the 3rd one. So effectively, all 3 males and all 3 females produce a litter of offspring between them. And that provides enough genetic diversity for you to have a self-fulfilling. So you could effectively build a farm from that, a sable farm from that. And if you had access, because the pelts themselves were, hence why the cost of them was so astronomical. So in the likes of the Hollywood glitz and glamour and, the London hoi polloi, many people had, fox fur coats. Well, you can get foxes anywhere. Another one was a chinchilla, which is almost like a small rodent, like rabbit thing. but the sable was the jewel in the crown. So to own a sable fur coat or any garment, even a pair of leather gloves with just the cuffs, sable cuffs,
Yeah,
was a show of high status.
sure.
So
Well,
that was
that
the
makes a
reason.
lot. That makes an awful lot of sense now to me in relationship to the film. So I do appreciate that explanation, which I did
So
not have at
sorry,
the time.
sorry, John. Sorry. So
Okay.
how long have you been in the sable trade, Sensum?
Oh, I haven't been in the sable trade very long, and I'm not growing triffids. But
It's all coming out
do.
now, eh?
I have a modicum of a science background, shall we say? But
As
no,
I
that's
say, when
yeah.
I saw this, I might have been about 15 or 16, perhaps 17 at the most. And it just did not make any sense to me that, it's not like Al Capone in the alcohol business, It just didn't really make much sense. But now it does. And I thank all of you for that explanation. It really does make a lot more sense. But I was always impressed with the atmosphere, although I'd never been obviously in the Soviet Union, but one got that run down, grim, rusting atmosphere going on in the background, which I thought was very, very effective to the whole mood of the film, you know. And we get then to the opening murder. What was your thoughts on the opening murder, Eke? Did you think that was overly gruesome, or do you think it was necessary in light of what now Sensum has explained to me about these animals and the cost?
And you're referring to the revealing of the quote faces end quote.
Yeah, yeah, how they were murdered and how they were disfigured deliberately,
Um,
or do you think it was just for effect?
no, it seemed pretty straightforward, and like I didn't see any problem with it. I understand that perhaps in 1983 it may have been a little bit much. Maybe I've been desensitized with, you know, 2023. Like there's some very upsetting media that one can consume should one so choose. So I've regrettably seen things like that, and yeah, the thing is that if you're going to set up a movie that involves genuinely, like, people are going to get murdered during the course of the movie, you have to inform the audience that the people that they're dealing with are not playing around, that they're completely for real. And this is why it's common in a lot of thrillers to either show a murder outright or to show aftermath, just to indicate to the audience that the opponent that they're watching, the antagonist that they're watching, is truly dangerous. So I think it was fine for the intended effect. I thought it was just fine. A little macabre, I'll admit. And I do have like this single problem of in dialogue they said that the victims were shot in the mouth so as to destroy the teeth, but when you actually look at the footage of the uncoverings, their teeth are perfectly intact. But that's only because you need the effect. The audience needs to see what they're actually looking at, and the teeth need to be present so that you can actually know that you're looking at a skull.
Yeah,
So little quibbles like that aside, yeah, I thought it was fine. And it was this is going to sound kind of weird, but it was exactly the correct level of macabre to get me interested to say, oh, okay, I'm actually watching a movie that's going to take itself seriously. Okay, I'll go with it.
yeah. And I think Sensum's making a very good point, because I do remember that there was a lot of this reconstruction of bodies at the time that was going on, obviously before DNA arrived on the scene. There was a lot of that going on. So that would be one of the many reasons why they would include it in the film, so that we get to see that as we go through the plot unfolding. We get to see these faces becoming faces. But I do remember at the time in real life it went on quite a bit, and people, particular doctors, became experts in the field. So I think he's absolutely right. Had it been DNA available, we wouldn't have seen any of that. But I think it was very effective for the film. The fact that we do get to see these reconstructions. Right. So let's concentrate a little bit on individuals. Start with you, William, because you're not all at first. Was there any individual in the film who you would pick out as being a bit more special than the others?
I think the guy Osborne played the part really well, being this kind of suspicious bad guy, almost gangster-like, and I thought he'd done that. I thought he was the standout for me, to be honest. But overall, maybe the girl as well. I forget her name, but she done quite well. Probably could have been used more, I thought. Make of that what you like, but yeah, I thought she done well, and the guy Osborne. When I read the trivia, the guy Osborne, I think his name is Lee Marvin.
Oh yeah, big star.
Yeah, he was seemingly quite a big drinker, liked
Yeah.
a drama too.
Oh yeah.
And he was, I shouldn't laugh, but he was seemingly in hospital because he was unwell due to being such a alcoholic, and he'd done quite a bit of his rehearsals in the hospital, seemingly. I thought that was, as you do, right? But yeah, I thought he played the part really well, and kind of felt for him at the end.
Just because he died.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was little ferrets, so.
So you don't have much time for these critters, William.
Well, not really, not ferrets. No, I remember I had a friend who his dad was a gamekeeper, and he had ferrets, and they stunk. Honest to God, the smell was so bad. So no.
Not something I know anything about, is these critters. Except, as since I've said, they used to cost an arm and a leg to buy these coats. I remember that. That was a big thing. But that doesn't exist, I don't think, much more. However, how about you, Eke? Is there anyone you would pick out from the cast that's been a bit more special than the others?
Ian freaking McDermott. McDermott? That's the guy. Ian McDermott. Freaking Darth Plagueis. Love it. The guy who played the skull reconstructionist or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the guy who played the Emperor in Star Wars.
Oh yeah,
That's
he
right.
was good. Yeah.
It took me like 5 seconds to realize who I was looking at, and I was like, holy freaking cow. That's the Emperor. Hell yeah.
Yeah. It was practice, isn't it, as you say?
Well, no, that was 82. So he was the Emperor in 81, and I think the second movie came out in 83. I didn't look at the timelines, so I don't know. It's within 1 year of him being in Star Wars 3, or of the first trilogy, number 6, I guess. So it looks as though he was basically channeling the Emperor the entire time, which I thought was hilarious. Yeah, I mean, it was actually really, it was pretty, it was a very solid cast all the way around, to be honest. Strangely enough, I don't know why, I got a real big kick out of Brian Dennehy, of all people, showing up at the movie. I don't know why Brian Dennehy is funny to me, but Brian Dennehy being Brian, and he's pretending to be Russian. It's like, what are you talking about? But no, it's
No,
great. Like, from the standpoint of watching,
he's an
actors that I would have
American.
seen as a kid, I loved it.
His character was an American, was it not?
What's that?
His character, is it an American character?
Yes. The character is genetically Russian, but born in America. That's the way that he's portrayed in the movie.
Okay.
Obviously, like with all of the actors in the movie, it's hard to take any of it seriously as any of them being Russian. But you know, it's the fiction of the film, so we're just gonna
Sure.
not
Go with
worry
that.
about any of that.
Okay.
But otherwise, yeah, Brian Denny, he played a guy who is supposed to be Russian, and he has a very strong interest in the mommy land, so he wants to go back and right wrongs or whatever.
Said some. What did you make? Did you think that Ricky Fulton was effective?
Well, I'd known that Ricky Fulton had played several serious roles, but a lot of people just remember him for the comedic sort of aspect, which he was brilliant at as well. But I've seen him in other things. I think there was a few sort of mid-70s horror films that he was in as well that were very good, but they were of the 70s. They were a bit they weren't the Vincent Price like Dr. Phibes ones or Theatre of Death kind of thing, but sort of along that line where you'd see like a Joan Collins pop up or Anthony Hopkins in early role pop up. That one, the one where he's got that ventriloquist dummy. I don't think he was in that one, but which the Entertainment or whatever it was called. And he popped up in a few of those, and he's a really, really good straight actor. So when I saw him, before I rewatched the film, which believe it or not was just this evening before we started. So I finished work, checked emails and everything, and then I just watched it because I wanted it to be fresh before we started. Sure. And I was trying to think to myself, how many people can you remember from this film? And I think I got to about 6 or 7 that I remembered from memory, because I have seen it a few times, but he wasn't one of them. And then when I saw him initially rocking up as the KGB, oh yeah, he is, isn't he? Yeah, bloody Ricky Fulton, and once again plays a very good straight role. Exactly how you would phrase it. I enjoyed Ian Bannon's role in it as well. I thought Ian Bannon was Arcady, the main guy, William Hurt's character, his boss, and I thought he played a good part. And also his mate Richard Griffiths as well. I've forgotten he was in it. Pie in the Sky and Harry Potter's evil uncle sort of thing.
Yeah,
but he plays a good role in it as well, albeit just a side character, but very heartfelt. You could tell that the friendliness on screen was very heartfelt, especially their sort of final embrace when William Hurt thought, I'm on my way to sort of essentially a suicide run here, effectively. So I really enjoyed it. I thought all of the main characters. I thought William Hurt. If the thing is, right, William Hurt is a fantastic actor. He's been in loads of other things. I think the film, I don't know if he won an Oscar for that one or the one that he was in with Marley Macklin, where she's the deaf lady. I don't know. I can't remember what the name of that film was. I think he won an Oscar. She won an Oscar for her performance in that film. I'll try and remember the name of that one. But shortly after this, I think William Hurt was in a drama called A Kiss of the Spider Woman. And when I was like a youth, I thought, oh, that'd be meant to be like Spider-Man or Dracula or something. It wasn't. It was just like it couldn't have been any further removed from that kind of a thing. And I started to watch. Oh, the hell is this shite? And then it was quietly engaging, and I can understand. I think he was nominated for that one, either that one or the one with Marley Macklin. With I think it'll come to me anyway. I'm always rubbish when it comes to remembering stuff on the spot, but in this role here, he was straight down the line. But I think it's the role, and because of his parentage in the film, in other words, his father was a renowned general, probably from the Second World War, sort of thing, but he was a little bit stiff, if you know what I mean. He was a little bit stiff, whereas the Michael Elphick character, he's number 2. You know, he was a bit more blasé. I suppose that's in keeping with the character, but I thought a lot of the supplementary characters. So Ian McDiarmid, as we've already mentioned, Richard Griffiths, Ricky Fulton, were all. Alexei Sale, even, for the amount of time he was in it, we're all in character. And when you're saying, what did you think of it being of its time and the feel and everything? Well, that perfectly illustrated, the Alexei Sale character perfectly illustrated something that I've been saying for since my enlightening years, is when you have the communist regime or a socialist regime, such as what they're trying to force us into, so basically a neo-feudalist system, so the globalists are essentially the rulers of the world, and they become the feudal barons, and everybody else lives in a sort of global communism, shall we say.
Yeah. Well,
the statecraft, if you like, the main sort of laws of the land, so the Soviet Union, if you like, all of the different people, the militia, the KGB, the government itself, they all ran the high-end operations of the country. But you also had a parallel society which was black market based. So when people used to say, oh, Russia's terrible, you can't get anything in Russia, you can't get this. The fact of the matter was, you could get anything you wanted in Russia. You just had to have the money to be able to afford it. And Alexei Sale, when he walks into his gaff and Michael Elphick's looking around, he's got stereo systems, video players, everything you like. And sort of he feigns as though he's trying to hide it by stretching 2 hands out, and the whole room's littered with this high-end stuff, Levi jeans in the top corner.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the reality. If you had the money, you could get anything you wanted in the Soviet Union, But those who didn't have the money didn't have the access. And that's exactly what the evil demons are trying to enforce on us through this globalist bloody paradigm that they wanted to do, thinly disguised tyranny, basically. But I actually enjoyed a lot of the supplementary characters and their parts, albeit small, as well as I did the main characters, because I think they, rather than just being chaff or filler, they actually added something to the main storyline.
Yeah. Well, as I said earlier, that was obviously my problem, and so I'm thankful for the explanation that I've now got. It makes the film now, in my mind, a lot more meaningful and a lot more worthwhile viewing it, which is no bad thing. But I was always impressed by the overall atmosphere that they had created, wherever they filmed it, didn't really matter. But I definitely got that impression of, oh my God, who wants to live there? It's all falling apart and everything's full of rust and things might work or might not work, etc., etc. So I thought all of that was very, very effective.
It's like home.
Yeah, just like Greenock. Well, what was your thoughts? Have you got any thoughts on the soundtrack?
Well, not really, but the music overall, I wasn't that keen on. It was a bit, I don't know. I didn't at the very start. It was a bit like, oh no, what is this? Who's picked this? And I forgot what if it was a horror or comedy or whatever it was. I forgot, so I was just sort of watching it, all ears open to whatever it may be, and then obviously the bodies in the in the snow, and I thought, that's where it's going.
How about you, said some? Did you have any thoughts on the soundtrack?
Well, it was produced by one of the greatest film composers ever, which is James Horner. You know, famous for many, 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 many different things. It's got a canon of work, but this wasn't. This was unfortunately this was of its time, so it was essentially an excuse to try and hammer wurzle in a few synths and that. Although it did have some, you know, a few sort of zither type riffs in there. It was a lot of synthesizer mixed in with real drums rather than synthetic drums of the time. But just to hold that in parallel, in 1984, that was when the fourth Dirty Harry film came out, Sudden Impact. And Lalo Schifrin, the famous Argentinian composer who's produced some wonderful soundtracks, very iconic soundtracks in the 60s and 70s. He also did the music for that, for Sudden Impact. And that's horrendous. The film score to Sudden Impact is horrendous. It's like all of these sort of classical composers sort of thought themselves, oh yeah, all these other films of the era are all using synths and things. I think, you know, I should start having to use those. So I'll throw all of that classical orchestration knowledge in the bin and get that Casio C180 out and the the Roland Juno out. Quick dust them off, and you know, got to get this music sounding hip. and the problem is, whereas you take a soundtrack from the, you know, a classical soundtrack from the 30s, the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and you play them now, they still stand up. But any sort of electronic film soundtrack from the 80s, with fairly few exceptions, you know, probably Blade Runner, which was Vangelis, which was very good. Yeah, they're awful in general. They really truly are awful, especially when you've got sort of noted composers like a James Horner, like a Lalo Schifrin, and they literally just, I mean, at the time, people, oh yeah, this is great. And then, you know, 10 years later, horrendous. Now it's just like, yeah, that's pretty dreadful. But I mean, it was of its time, you know. It's just that that kind of synth music
didn't last.
It doesn't carry very well, whereas properly orchestrated music does. And in fairness, a lot of the modern film score music that you get now, because they are using synthesizers, but they're using the orchestration techniques of the classics. It's very difficult to separate those from you know, sort of score music done by musicians and blended in with synths. So you'll find a lot of this hybrid stuff now. Hans Zimmer is a classic example. So that kind of music will probably last the end of time. But I would say film score music from 1981 through to about 85 they're pretty much all going to be dreadful, with probably, like I say, the exception of Blade Runner. That's one of the few, and obviously Chariots of Fire, which is another Vangelis. So, maybe it was just Vangelis had cornered the market on making things last, for being able to translate to the future. But
Well,
yeah,
there wasn't any of them managed. That's the thing, and I think you're right. I think it was probably all too new for the musicians at the time. You know, they probably didn't sit down and play around with it long enough before they committed themselves to some project or other. I think that's part of the problem because it does develop into something really worthwhile as it is today. Most of it's pretty worthwhile, I would say. Where is our Eki? Ah, there he is. Eki, what would you make of the direction of the film? Was it well done, or was it just done?
I think it's hard to explain. I always have issues with the focus of the narrative, and I felt as though the narrative was just a bit unfocused, only a bit. And I think that reflected in things like the cinematography. So while all of the coverage was beautiful, all of the images were just fantastic, and I thought they were great. Uh, as I was watching it the whole time, I was thinking to myself, I wish that the plot, I wish that the story focused solely on like one person, their experience, how they're dealing with it, and laid everything out. Like, yes, I do understand that I'm coming from the die hard mentality, with Bruce Willis and whatever, where everything is, very simple. You know where you are at all times. It's all kind of laid out, and you get to have your cake and eat it too, basically.
Sure.
It's very cute. It's tied up in a bow, and you can comprehend everything quickly and readily on first viewing, with fun back end stuff to think about on second and third viewing. But the thing is that I didn't even mind it all that much because it was entertaining for me to watch. So I didn't actually care all that much. It's one of those like background thoughts that I've got in my head, but I understand that that's basically a thing in my head. And it's like, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to try to force my tastes on everybody else? That's stupid. But otherwise, I thought it was just great. I really liked it. In particular, the scenes where they were just like a couple of people alone in a room talking. Most of the time, those scenes are kind of bland and boring, and it's like whatever. I don't care. These are talking heads. This is exposition. It just has to be done, and I get it. But in a lot of instances, they would make a point of showing characterization in those scenes. So even though I thought that I would have shot it differently, but that's just me. Even still, I thought it still looked just fantastic the entire way. And all of my gripes aside, even just scenes like where what is it? When there's that bizarre Mexican standoff between the main character and like his boss who gets shot in the pool or whatever. And it's just like him with a gun over his boss, and then the boss says or does something wrong or whatever, and he tips his hand, and then he gets shot, and he gets dropped into the pool, And then there's the big da da da, which is sort of a lame cue, but the music cue actually was there. Even with that, I still liked it. I still really, really liked it. And the funny thing about some of those, in my opinion, the funny thing about some of the scenes in the movie, you can actually catch little tiny hints of like 1960s styles of direction, which I thought was kind of funny. It was unintentional on the part of the filmmakers, but it had this really weird like 60s pulp lo-fi film noir vibe about it. where on a fundamental level, like, oh, what was it? Ian McDermott's character, the guy who did the facial reconstructions.
Uh-huh.
Hold on a second. I'm looking. Professor Levy Andreev. There's a scene where William Hurt's character, gosh, what's his name again? Arkady Renko. Renko gives the skull to, I'll just use the actors' names, I don't really care. William Hurt gives the skull over to Ian McDermott, and then Ian McDermott, like, there's this big giant set piece where he goes through a bunch of rooms talking to people
Yeah.
about things or whatever. And I thought, what a silly, this looks ridiculous, dude. But that's exactly the kind of thing that you would have done back in like the 1960s to sort of show off technology, science. Look at the science. This is serious. There are people in lab coats
Yeah.
discussing things with technical verbiage.
Exactly.
And like as I was watching that, I was like, this is so freaking 60s, you guys. But at the same time, I still really liked it. So I don't know. It's this weird thing where as I was watching it, they were referencing things that I would have been unaware of as a kid. The whole paranoia of living in a Bolshevik society, which is what I believe I live in now. So I was getting kind of a peculiar recognition of, holy cow, they're talking about things that I actually understand now. And on the other hand, I was watching film techniques from when I was a kid. So there was also a peculiar nostalgia vibe, but it was like nostalgia on nostalgia because I was watching film techniques from like before I was born. So it was, I don't know, it was a funny set of layerings on the movie that I thought was really fun to watch. So actually, that's the long way around of answering. I liked the direction of the movie, but for a lot of very weird reasons. So it's very esoteric, I guess. But I guess those are my thoughts.
How about you, Sensor? What was your thoughts on the direction of the film?
Well, once again, I'm a big fan of the films that Michael Apted has done, and I once again, it was of its time, and a number of the people involved were sort of at the earlier part of their film careers. But once again, the one thing I didn't realize when I rewatched the film and I paid the credits, the opening credits, a little more scrutiny than usual was the number of high rankers in there. So obviously Michael Apted is the director. Obviously you've got the Lee Marvin Dennehy, William Hurt in the sort of the front, the main sort of trilogy of big name characters at the time. And I've just remembered it was Children of a Lesser God. That's just come to me. The Marley Macklin and William Hurt film. Good film, actually. Very good film. Children of a Lesser God. It's a drama, so a bit teary. So don't be prepared. But it's just that Dennis Potter did the screenplay. They're just little things that I hadn't recollected or would have even noted or would have been impressed by. James Horner, I didn't remember that James Horner did the music for this film. I didn't know that at all, and then but subsequently obviously I know him because his biggest one was probably Titanic. He won the Oscar for that along with everybody else, but that wasn't his best score by far. I thought his score to Field of Dreams was wonderful. And, think of the film What You Want. The score was good. Braveheart. He did the score to Braveheart as well.
Very good.
Well, most of James Cameron films, he did Avatar as well. But, I just, the sort of embarrassment of riches from the actors all the way through the production team, of the roles that because of the usual awards that get doled out every year. So director, musical score, screenplay. They all had a solid foundation to essentially make a good film. Even though William didn't enjoy it, he's probably a little too young to appreciate that it was a good film of its time and of its caliber. But well, we look at it through 40-year-old eyes, literally 40-year-old eyes. It's was it 40 years old now, that film? So it's
Is it that old?
Yeah, so 83. So it literally is 40 years old.
So that means, well, I was obviously then I was older than I remember I was when I saw it. Obviously, if it's 40-year-old.
Yeah, so, but I didn't see it in 83. I probably saw it probably in 85, 86 when it eventually hit the TV.
Well, I know I definitely saw it in cinema. I know that.
Yeah, it was, but you know, there were a number of films from that sort of what I call the early mid 80s. So I class that as being sort of 81 through to 84. Blade Runner was another one that didn't get critical acclaim at all, and yet I loved it. I loved Blade Runner from the off, and it was only sort of latterly, once it had gone through the films and tanked at the films, that it became a cult classic, for want of a better word. Even though it is a very, very good film, but there were several films in that period which didn't necessarily get the critical acclaim they deserved, but latterly became, quite renowned as being great examples of their work. I'm not saying that Gorky Park is, but what I'm saying is it is a pretty solid thriller, and it'll score aside, it stands up as a story. It stands up today, I think. Obviously, people, younger people, not William necessarily, but people sort of my kids' age, probably see it and see the skulls and everything. They'll just go, "Oh, why didn't?" Well, they just do DNA testing because 40 years ago didn't really have that.
Didn't exist.
A bit like your thumb dummy. The thumb dummy. Oh, but yeah. No, I like I say, it was.
No, it is a film that is often mentioned.
Yeah, pretty decent all the way through.
Pretty decent all the way through. All the way through. So, who is it choosing next? Is it me? Is it my choice for the next movie?
Well, if so, keep in mind it's spooky season, man. It's got to be a spooky movie.
Oh yeah, it is that. Let me just double check, because all of the categories apart from thriller are up for grabs. And let me see here. So I was this one. So who was in the 8th? That was Willie with End of Days. So who was in the 7th? That was Eki. So it's you, John. You have an open field with the exception of thriller, and your choices are action, biopic, comedy, documentary, drama, William's favourite category, fantasy, horror, sci-fi, sports, and western. So you've got to, I can send you the categories through, but you've got an absolute panopticon.
So it's going to be a spooky sports movie? Is that what's going to go on?
Well, I'll tell you, let's see if I can get this thing to work.
Well, I have a question. Can any of you guys tell me if we have covered a film known as With Neil and I? Or
Wait,
have we
repeat?
just simply talked
No,
about it?
we haven't done with Neil and I. Although I've drank in the pub where they filmed it several times. Yeah, it's in Stony Stratford in Buckinghamshire.
Okay.
I've got slatted many a night in that pub.
Yeah. Look at you.
I tell you what, it's a beautiful. Stony Stratford is a gem. It's right. It's in Buckinghamshire. I think it's right on the Buckinghamshire Northamptonshire border, and it's right next door to the hellscape that is Milton Keynes. But Stony Stratford's a beautiful little coaching town. Beautiful place, wonderful people,
Yeah.
and fantastic pubs. In fact, that's where they have you've got the Cock Inn and you've got the Bull's Head.
All right.
And because both of them were coaching houses, during the time of Dick Turpin, who actually was on his way to be hung down in London, stayed overnight in Stony Stratford, used to have these coachmen. So they used to put the coaches in the back, and then they used to go in the pub, and they'd have a drink, and there'd be some wild tale, and then they go to the Bull, get more drunk, and the wild tale, and that's where you get the phrase "a cock and bull story" straight from Stony.
Interesting.
So the story would start off very benign. It would go from one pub to the next, get a little bit of imbibe, and then go back to the next one. Then the next time they go to the next one, and by the time the night was over, what might have been somebody said, "Oh yeah, this bloke sort of pushed me out of the way in the street in a hurry," became Dick Turpin robbed all my money, literally on the night before. So
There is another possibility that I've considered, especially because of the season of the year, and that would be Night of the Demon.
I haven't done that one though, unfortunately.
Well,
Is that the one? Is that the one with the Dana Andrews one?
Yeah, that's the one.
That was my first pick as a member on the panel.
Yeah,
So we've done it. We have actually done it then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did do Night of the Demon, and it was a great movie, and I do recommend it. Just generally, it's awesome.
Okay. Because that would have been the one, you know. It's such a little classic film.
Well, I'd watch it again. It's a brilliant film.
Well, they've got to think of our audience as well, sense them, you know, not just us. I'll have a think about it. I'll see if I can find something that is equally as good, and I'll try my best to keep it in the horror, spooky. Well, we could do the haunting, of course.
Didn't we do that as well?
No, we've never done that one. No.
With Claire Bloom and
No. Yeah, we did that one, but I'm thinking of the other one.
There's one that was made in 1963. Is that the one?
Yeah.
that's the one we've done that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was Claire Bloom and what was her name? Rita Tushingham, was it?
Yeah. Oh, I'm thinking of what's her name? Oh God. Sorry,
Zeke
guys.
Jones?
No. More well known than her. Doesn't matter. I'll find something.
Jamie Lee Curtis, you were thinking of, were you? Halloween.
No. British film. Black and white. Beautiful. Beautifully shot.
The Haunting of Hill House.
No. I'll look for it. I'll look for it, guys. I'll look for it.
So it's going to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 8.
X, the seventh one was garbage. 8, on the other hand.
Yeah, some of the guys are asking me how am I holding up? Well, I'm holding up all right, but as you can probably hear, fellas and gals, uh, the memory isn't quite as sharp as it was before this started, and I don't like that either. But there's nothing I can do about it. Apart from that, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. No bloody energy, but I'm doing okay. Yeah, the Exorcist route, and apparently there's a new one out as well, a new Exorcist film out. Um,
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
Ellen Burstyn's in it as well, isn't she? Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw that. Yeah.
Um, the trouble with some of these films is availability, and that's the thing that we've always got to remember is availability. And for William's sake, I'm trying to stay away from black and white films.
No, sorry, he gets his pick, doesn't he? As long as he doesn't get as long as he doesn't get left with fantasy.
Well, I'll think about it. I'll think about it. I don't want to pick tonight. I'll think about it because
Yeah.
there's so many really good films. It could be uh, Cincinnati Kid, Elmer Gantry, The Hustler, Imitation of Life. I would love to do.
That'd set Eki off straight away.
Oh, I would
Yeah, I
really,
know that one.
I'd really like to do that Imitation of Life.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah, that's the one with Lana Turner in, isn't it?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's a. I think that's a brilliant film.
I think we should do that one for just for Eki.
Do you think he'll be upset by
Well, it is.
that? Okay. If we can't do that, then what we have to do is
No, it's your choice, John. You can pick wherever you want. Like I say, it was just a suggestion that it's the Halloween. It will. Well, it will. In fact, what day does it fall on? October. Let's have a look.
I don't know, have a look. I'll tell you. I'll tell you
Yeah,
a drama.
27th.
I'll tell you a drama. I think we should do. I think we should do this one, and it should go down well with our audience as well. Halloween. When does Halloween come?
The last
31st.
Friday's the 27th.
Well, it's 31st, Sunday. Anyway, I think we should do 12 Angry Men.
Yeah, good pick. I like that film. Really good film.
And it's available on Couch Turner. 12 Angry Men it is.
Okay,
Everybody okay with that, William?
brilliant.
12.
Sorry, what was that? Sorry.
12 Angry Men.
It's a film called 12 Angry Men.
And if you haven't seen it, you're in for a treat. It's brilliant. And this would be the Henry Fonda one. So
yeah.
what I'll do is I will I'll get the link down and stick it in the chat. So
Please
you get
do.
the right one.
Please
Yeah.
do that, Senso. This has got an absolute superb cast, William.
Cool. I've not seen it.
There are
Henry Fonda.
lots and lots of elements that can be talked about, discussed, that are very interesting, very pertinent to this film, and it is an absolute. When you use the word classic here, it is the proper use of the word. It is a classic film. I would be very surprised if you don't take a lot from it.
Yeah.
And it's a horror movie.
No,
No,
Oh,
it's
what
a
is
it's a,
it?
drama.
it's a, it's a drama. It's a criminal drama.
It's a courtroom drama, but it's right up there, mate. It's one of the. It's got to be in the. I think it's in the top 10 of all time films, isn't it? Or some.
Yeah,
It's got to be near there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
You're in for a rare treat if you haven't seen it.
Have you seen this, Eki?
I don't think I have. I mean, I know of it, obviously. I've seen clips here and there,
Yeah,
but
I'm
I
sure you
don't
have.
think I've actually watched the entire movie.
I think you'll love this one, Eki. The messaging's just great because. But if you ignore the subliminal stuff, Eki, if you just enjoy it for the film that it is, it's brilliant.
Okay, but I have a hard time turning that part of my brain off, so please
Oh, let the
just
Canaanites have their fun for
yeah,
once.
just allow me to have that one thing of having that one problem, and I promise I'll try to move it to the side and just enjoy it as best I can anyway.
Well, I'll be very disappointed if William and yourself don't really uh, take to this film.
No pressure.
It is absolutely superb. It's so well made and so well written. And what makes it that way, in part, is the fact that it comes from a highly successful stage play. As they used to do back in the day. You used to use these highly successful stage plays and convert them into films, and this is one of them. And all the action takes place in one room. So you're in for a lot of exposition, but superbly done and superbly acted by all of them. And you'll know everyone in it. So that's my pick. 10 Angry Men. 12 Angry Men, should I say. 12 Angry Men.
Yeah, it is a really good film.
Well, I'd be surprised had you not seen it, Eki. Sense. I've got other films here, but a whole list of them, but this is just what it stands out really.
Well, the thing is, right, that film, 12 Angry Men, it describes exactly about the storyline. Whereas yesterday evening, John, our
Uh-huh.
good friend William there, not only did he advertise his stream at 8:30 and then try to fob it off as being a parody on 2030, he also had his thumbnail and promises of everything. If you look at his thumbnail and everything for that stream, he was
Uh-huh.
going to be talking about space ghost sharks. And I thought to myself, this sounds fantastic. Got to get myself an hour or so of space ghost sharks. Who wouldn't want to listen about space ghost sharks? And he did. He talked about the International Space Station all night. Now, to me, John, I think that's against the trade's description. And I have
Uh,
put in a formal complaint because he hooked me in, into that chat. And I stayed with it for as long as I could before my lad sort of summoned my taxiing services. And there wasn't one space ghost shark in that entire stream. And I demand satisfaction, sir. I demand that your next stream is on space ghost sharks.
I know. I've got to make a public apology. I think not long after it, Sensum was he went straight on the phone to his bosses at YouTube. So they've been sending me emails. He's definitely got connections.
so what happened to the sharks?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I wish I never used it now. The shark was in relation to a movie called Finding Nemo.
All right.
That's the poster for the shark is on the poster for the movie, and it was
Right.
in relation to a place called Point Nemo. That was the whole gag, but it was too much for Sensum to get. So hey, what can I say?
No, I know Bruce. I know Bruce the shark from Finding Nemo because he's Australian. He's a great white Australian shark. You promised space ghost shark, sir. Do not try and assuage any kind of it's Finding Dory or Finding Nemo. Don't give me any of that caper. You promised space ghost sharks, and I demand space ghost sharks,
Yeah,
sir.
absolutely. Was there not
Do you know
even
what?
a space ghost story about sharks? No.
No,
Well, do you know the ISS is a bit of a ghost anyway? So you could say, yeah, to be
Oh,
fair.
gosh, that's a big shovel you're digging a hole there with, William.
now the thing is, John, right?
Uh-huh.
You might know this because it's one of the, it's got to be in the top 10 films of all time. Yeah. But
Uh-huh.
there's a film called Sharknado. And what
Right.
it's about a tornado that's full of sharks. There's the trade description
Uh-huh.
Sharknado, a
Uh-huh.
tornado full of sharks. It matches the description. William
Yeah.
promises space ghost sharks. And what do we get? International Space Station.
Yeah.
Shocking. Absolute shocker.
Do you know, I went on to have a look at the live stream today, and YouTube have removed the chat, the live chat. So I don't know what someone must have said. So it was probably sent some racism again.
Are you
I was demanding space ghost sharks. I never used anything else. That was it.
are you
We all
joking,
know.
William?
No, it's happened quite a few times.
They
I go
took your
back
they,
and
they
it's,
took your live chat away.
yeah, they remove it. Yeah.
Good God. Well, it's like 12 Angry Men. I can assure you there will be 12 men in the movie. 13 if you count the man that comes in and brings things into the set. But 12 of them are there and they're angry. I seriously, I don't get that. What the hell's going on there? That sounds a bit strange.
And it's all recorded in one room.
Yeah, this film.
It's a
Yeah.
courtroom drama, mate. So it's
actually all conducted in the jury room.
yeah. Hence why it would come from a play, because it was very easy to stage as a play, and then they
That's
put it into a
correct.
film. So
And there are aspects about that you may find interesting if you don't know about them. There's aspects about that as well, which is very, very interesting. Not everyone knows about it though. But I can't get away with it. YouTube have done that. That's outrageous. Imagine that. Anyway, what can I say, folks? Now, the reason I'm bringing this to a bit of a close, guys, is, I'm not as strong as I once was, when my treatment started. So if there's not much else to be said about the film, we could close it up here if you like, unless you want to talk about something else. The only thing I want to talk about is really to ask people, if they haven't done it, to come and join the party with a new low subscription amount, like Sticking the Mud has done. But I need your details. If you do join, I need your details. Okay? So if anybody knows this Sticking the Mud fella, could you ask him to send me his full name and postal address, which would be awfully helpful, so I can send him his information pack, which, as far as I'm concerned, is important. And for everyone else, I would like you to consider this thought, and it is a thought. If all the people who are taking part in the Woodlander Initiative, if all those people were to join the party, we would have the second largest party in Great Britain, membership-wise. I want you to think about that. That's how small the rest of them are. So think about it, please. It only costs you £5 to join. So, that's my message for tonight. Anybody get anything else they'd like to say about the film or anything else before I close up?
No, I liked it. That's really all I can say.
Thank you, Eki.
Do you know what? It wasn't. I said it wasn't great, but I didn't say it was bad. It was.
No, I know.
It was decent. It was decent enough. A wee bit on the trivia. There's the bathhouse that's in the movie. Seemingly it was owned by ABBA at the time.
Really?
It was in Sweden, Stockholm, yeah. Going by the trivia, at least. There was a funny bit. I mean, I always tend to laugh at weird shit, to be fair, but when the guy opened the fridge and the head was in the fridge, that cracked me up, man. He's just, the American guy opens the fridge and there's this sculpture of somebody's bloody head. And it's like, yep, it's Russia, right?
Yeah.
And there was a quote where he said, "Oh, if the KGB break or are above the law, then they would be no worse than the CIA." And I thought, well,
yeah, that's a good
takes one to know one, right?
Yeah, that was a very good line, I thought.
Yeah, but yeah, it was quite good overall. I reckon I'd maybe give it about a 6.
Well, I hadn't got to that point yet. I would just, before we start that process, I would like to add on top of all of this that I find it interesting in an age where we do have DNA, okay? And we will assume for the moment that it's fairly accurate. I find it interesting that the so-called remains that they have found for black people in Britain is not being submitted to DNA testing, but submitted to that reconstruction thing that you see in that movie. I don't know if you're aware of that. That's how they put that Cheddar Man face together. They used that process, but they did not go anywhere near DNA with the thing. So that's an interesting thing you want to think about. Anyway, let's start with you then, Eki. Out of 10, what would you give it?
7.5.
Very
Maybe an
good.
8. I mean, 8 if I'm going for pure nostalgia, but 7.5 if I'm taking out nostalgia.
Okay, that's a good score. William, you would give it, as you said.
Yeah, I reckon a 6 from me, and that's kind of being kind, to be honest. But yeah, we'll go with that.
A 6. Well, obviously, said some you'll give it a bit more than that.
Believe it or not, before he said it, I was actually going to give it 7.5, the same as Eki. So 7.5 from me. I think that's a fair score. It's not over elaborate, but
Yeah,
I thought it's better than average, put it that way.
excellent. Personally speaking, I'd give it a 7 now that I understand what I did not understand before, thanks to you guys. I'd give it a 7. For me, that's made all the difference. This whole explanation about the creatures.
Stables.
Yeah, stables and all that stuff. That's made a big difference to me. So I think it's done all right.
Also, just for the sake of it, thank you, Sensum, for clarifying the sable thing because I didn't know anything at all about that.
Yeah, it was like I say, it was almost like the silk trade of China before that secret escaped allegedly through virtue of a Chinese princess who was married off, and she had her hair all done up, and inside her hair was a little box, and inside the box were the little silkworms that obviously then became the moths, the silk moths that then bred, and then the silk. It was no longer a Chinese secret, and that's essentially what Jack Osborne was trying to do by taking live sable to America. But he might have thought it might have been a busted flush because I think within 7 years the fur trade had been banned anyway. So unlucky. But even so, like I say, those weren't the sensibilities of the time. And like I say, in that era, if you adjust for, I don't know what it would be now, but if you adjust for inflation, $20,000 in '83 now, don't know what you're talking, mate. You could probably tell me, but that's a lot of money.
Yeah, and I would venture to suggest also that in certain wardrobes in certain wealthy houses, there'll be these fur coats and hats still hanging there.
Sensum's got one of the hats. He's wearing it right now.
I tell you what, right? I tell you what. When I was a kid, in Stoke of all places, because a lot of the miners were like a mining community with Durham miners, but a load of the blokes who they had bloody like those Russian hats. A lot of them had because they were like really toasty warm. A load of them had that style of hat. I don't know what it was. If it was just something that was special to Durham, but they all used to walk around in what we used to call Cossack hats, which are those essentially the same sort of hat that all the Ruskies were wearing. And I was like, it's bloody strange, isn't it? Like all these bloody Russian hats and that. But I don't know if it was just a Durham thing or a minor thing or whatever. But when they were out and about in the winter, because usually summer is flat cap.
Yeah.
Flat cap and the odd trilby.
Sure.
But in the winter, it was like, apart from my dad who wouldn't, I think his flat cap was welded to his head. But the majority of the men folk of that sort of era and that sort of age all had these Russian style Cossack hats in the winter.
Well, I would have dearly loved one of those Russian hats, Whoa.
I'll tell you what, the older I'm getting, the more I want one.
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. Add to my collection. That's what I was saying that to my son. If the worst comes to the worst, and I lose all my hair and I end up doing a Mussolini, I'm going to be wearing my smoker's cap to go with the hairstyle. But I'll wait and see if that happens. But I really like those Russian hats. They're brilliant. They look superb. And they look really warm too.
Well, like you say, now that I'm as bald as an egg, they look even warmer. I tell you what, right? I tell you, this is God's honest truth. I can't remember when it was, but it was a couple of years back or wherever, and it was a really perishing, freezing cold, like raw ice day where you could see literally the branches on the trees were frozen white. It was one of those kind of perishing days. And I'd been in the house, I think I just got out of a nice, warm, lovely bath. And I went outside. And my kids literally filmed, because they've got the thumb dummies, these bloody phone film camera dummy things.
Uh-huh.
And they're all giggling on and laughing. And I think we were going out, we were having a meal somewhere, and we get to where we were going. And they basically, as I was walking to the car, they were filming me head steaming. Little shits.
Okay, guys. I'm going to bring on the outro music, and we'll kind of wind this up, if you don't mind. You can always have a quiet chat in the background for a short time if you wish. However, just let me say one last time, please stick in the mud if you're listening or you will listen tomorrow. Please send me your real name and your postal address so I can send this information to you about the party now that you have paid your subscription. For everyone else, I expect you to join. £5. Send me your real details and we'll send you the information about the party. So, apart from that request, any last words? We'll start with you, William. Any last words to the audience?
Yeah, take it easy, and it's been great to see you, John. You're looking well. I was a bit worried, and we've all been a bit worried about you. So
Thank you.
it's been great. It's been great to speak to you again. To everyone else, yeah, it's been great to engage. Lots of good comments as always. It's good to see a bit of banter, and yeah, it's been a joy.
Well, thank you for your kind words, and it's been great to be here and listening to you all. And I appreciate all the kind words and all the sincere prayers that have been offered up. I really do. Okie doke. Well, I'll remove you for now. If you're going to go and walk your dogs, my friend. If not, you can hang back for a quick chat if you wish. Okie doke. Right. Eki, any last words for our audience?
The only thing that I can think of that is semi-interesting, feel free to cut me off if you want. It occurred to me a little while ago that, for want of a better phrasing, the indigenous white Scots, in order to offer up any defense, must assert their existence. On a language level, you cannot defend your existence, you can't defend your existence unless you first assert that you exist. So this is coming out of left field, and I understand it, but this is just a thing that's been on my mind for the past month is all. I think it's high time to say that, quote, we exist, end quote. And I think that would be a very important thing on a language level for later on, because at the moment, most people they're trying to play the game of I am not racist or whatever, and that's not going to fly, and it doesn't matter. The people that hate are not going to be swayed by cries of mercy. So I think that there is inevitably going to come a point where there's going to have to be an assertion of existence so that after the fact, one can claim defense of that existence. So that's sort of heavy-handed. It's coming out of left field. I understand it. I apologize. But I do think it's important, and I do think it's worth spreading. So thank you for allowing me to say that. Anyhow, after that, I guess I would just say floss. Remember to floss your teeth. It's actually really important. And that's about it. That's all I got. Cheers. God bless you all.
Okay, Eki, I thoroughly appreciate your words. I totally agree with those words. I think part of that declaring we exist is becoming part of the party, as well as taking part in the initiative set up by the Woodlander This is all part of saying we are bloody well here. We're not going anywhere. We never will go anywhere. We belong here. And that's an end to it. So I do agree with you. Thank you for saying it. Okay, that leaves you, my friend, Sensen. Have you got any last words now? I know you've got advertising to do, so you carry on and do your advertising.
Well, no, well, tomorrow night it's obviously the end of the month, so I do a monthly stream with 42 over on his channel in DJ. So it's the end of the month stream over on 42's channel, but I've got nothing. I haven't planned anything. This last fortnight's been absolute chaos work-wise because things. And I literally haven't had a chance to turn around. But one thing I would say to folks, and I should have, it was remiss of me not to say it earlier on. Early in the week, Eki dropped a stream on his channel, about 45 minutes long. Defo worth a listen, So if you're not subbed to Eki, then please do so. He's down as Eki Lux. One of the mods can probably drop his link in the channel. And this week's stream was good as they always are. They always drop a little bit too late for me, but if I get notified the following day, and then that night, he's my evening listen. He's once again lovely, soothing voice with some very good information to divulge, and that's it for me. But thanks for having us on again, John, and I really look forward to the next one. 12 Angry Men, really great choice, sir.
Thank you, and you have a good stream, and I'll take you out. But thanks for being here, all of you. I'll just say here in relationship to Rory Herbert, he's saying over 90,000 has been raised by the Woodlander. I'm not talking about raising over 90,000 or anywhere near it. What I'm talking about is raising a large number of people. So if all the people who took part or are taking part in that initiative were to become members of the party, and some of you may already be members of the party, I don't know, it would make us, I think, the second largest party in this country. And that's something that would set them, our enemies, on bloody fire. And it would say a lot about us being here, belonging here, and going no bloody where. So, with that, folks, I shall say, until the next time I'm on, and it may not be, the next time I'm on may, in fact, possibly be next week. How I feel now dictates when I can come on. So I may very well be on Tuesday if I'm feeling up to it. All right. Just watch out for the notification. Otherwise, as I always say, enjoy your weekend. Take care of yourself, all of you. And as always, adios, au revoir, cheerio, and until I do see you again, hopefully very soon, bye for now. Enjoy the music.
Silently the snow falls, paints a winter scene, swiftly spreads the dark rim, hides the fading autumn green. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, conjure friendships dear to me. Lightly now the breeze flows, disturbing more than just the leaves. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow. Patiently the love grows, lifts the weary heart. Gently now she holds me, melts two worlds once apart. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, usher dreams of you and me. Softly then the breeze blows, disturbing more than just the trees.
All together now.
But love's much more
So much more
than we can know.
than we could ever possibly know.
We are one small glow in the eternal flow. Melodies of long ago, songs of innocence, harmonies to soothe the soul, past the consequence. Moonbeams rush the dark wood, awakening joys of you and me. Silently the snow falls, bringing winter symphony.
All together now.
But we're much more
So much more
than we can
than
know.
we could ever possibly know.
We are one small glow
But a very important glow.
in the eternal flow. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow.
Okay, folks, you take care of yourself. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I will speak to you all real soon. Goodbye for now. And again, thank you for all your kind words and all your sincere prayers. Bye just now. Bye.